Today, I'm going to be reviewing and discussing 5 underrated Xbox 360 games that you should try in 2026. Timestamps in the description in no particular order. The first game on today's list is Rock of the Dead, an American-only first-person rhythm-based rail shooter in which you kill zombies with the power of rock music. Developed by the now shut-down Epicenter Studios and published by UFO Interactive. The story to this game is funny, about a dude using rock music to combat the zombie apocalypse, while he's also trying to save a girl named Mary Beth that he has a crush on. His journeys bring him face to face with alien bastards behind the zombie uprising, and your unnamed character has the choice to join the aliens in world domination or to defeat them with his guitar. A very creative and humorous story in my opinion, and the guy that you play as is very funny if you ask me, with various jokes and entertaining commentary. The gameplay is, well, a rhythm-based rail shooter, where you match the color patterns shown on screen to defeat baddies. You also have an emergency energy blast and a shield charged by defeating enemies. And while this game is clearly designed to be played with an instrument controller, it does support a normal controller as well, which is how I played it. Although this did take some getting used to, as for one, rhythms use colors and not letters. What I mean by this is, I pretty much had to relearn my controller, as I have it memorized by the letters A, X, Y, and B, and not by the colors red, green, blue, and yellow. So I had many brain farts on my first playthrough of being like, which is the blue one again? Also, there are 5 colors and only 4 buttons on the controller, so orange got tossed onto the left bumper, which was never clarified, and this took me a minute to figure out. Like I said, clearly intended for instrument controllers, but thankfully not solely limited to them. This game does offer a local co-op, which can get a little chaotic, as it's hard to tell which player is aiming at what, but I overall had fun playing this game with my wife, and one achievement is to simply play one level with the second person. Game length wise, this title is roughly 4 hours long. But it does have a endless survival mode and various challenges, which bring replay value to the table. As far as enemy variety, it's mainly focused around zombie humans, but you also fight zombie bats and dogs, in addition to other things like alien robots, or one level where you fight spaceships. There are also a lot of very creative boss fights, like taking on a huge crocodile or a monster made out of single wide trailers. The VAs are good, although the graphics are meh. But to be fair, this was initially planned as a Wii exclusive, but then it never released on the Wii, for whatever reason. In conclusion, Rock of the Dead is a short but very fun title that I give a 9.4 out of 10 by my grade scale. Used copies are cheap last I checked, so give it a spin if you like zombie games and rock music. Going over to the second game on today's list, a criminally underrated FPS, the one and only Duke Nukem Forever, developed by a hybrid blend of 3D Realms, Triptych Games, and Gearbox, and published by 2K in 2011 after a crazy long development period. This is one of my favorite games ever, and a game that deserves more positive attention if you ask me. I think the first thing to mention is all the interactable objects in this game, as that's something that makes DNF stand out to me, such as being able to use toilets, urinals, hand dryers, pinball tables, you can lift weights, and much, much more. And sometimes, the first time that you use an interactable object, you earn a max HP upgrade, which was pretty cool. Now I will say that the story to DNF is kind of weak, but that could be said for most Duke games, as the series isn't known for its storytelling, but for its gameplay. While some will disagree, I think DNF is a blast in that department, with really fun gunplay that saw the return of several of Duke's iconic guns, and also a few new ones. Also, you have cool power-ups that you can use, like a Hollow Duke, which distracts enemies and makes you invisible, or Duke Sunglasses, which grant you night vision in dark places. Now, one thing that DNF brought to the table, which I thought was really neat, was executions, in which you could stun some enemies by whittling down their health, and then you could punch their head off, which restored your HP to max. In addition to combat, this title has some really cool sections where you can drive a monster truck and a little RC car as Mini Duke, which I really enjoyed. Graphically, I think this game looks good, although the PC version does look a bit better. Performance-wise, the game does have some lengthy loading times on original hardware, but it loads much quicker if you play it on a Series X, as this is a PC game. DNF could also get a bit laggy if a lot was going on at once, but overall, this title does run well performance-wise. The voice actors, primarily John St. John as Duke, are good, and this title has a good soundtrack, and I give the 360 version of Duke Nukem Forever a 9 out of 10 by my grade scale. That said, the PC version is overall better, but this game is very fun regardless of where you play it. Alrighty, shambling over to bite into the third game on today's list, we have Dead Island Riptide, the sometimes overlooked and underappreciated direct sequel to Dead Island. Developed by Techland and published by Deep Silver in 2013, I will never understand why this game was received worse than the first game. For me personally, Riptide fixed all the problems that I had with the first DI game, and it improved on the stuff that I did like. For example, the first game had a lot of annoying door breaches and sections where you fight humans. While these were present on Riptide, they were way less frequent. Also, I frequently ran to a glitch on DI1 where I would eat food items and they wouldn't restore any HP like they're supposed to. This still happened on Riptide, but it was way less frequent. And finally, I didn't like how things such as medkits and alcohol, which is a crafting item, took up space in your weapon inventory, and how Molotovs often had issues stacking. Riptide fixed this by giving medpacks their own inventory space, repairing the Molotov stacking issue, and moving alcohol to your crafting inventory. As for things that Riptide added to this series, well, that'd be several new enemy types, more throwable weapons, new perks, new attacks, the ability to drive boats, and more. So for me, Riptide is underrated, because again, it fixed my problems with the first game while it added things that I enjoyed and it just improved the game in general, but it somehow got worse reviews than DI1. Anyways, for a brief rundown of what this game is, for those who are unaware, it's a first-person zombie apocalypse RPG, and it's a pretty gruesome title, having lots of blood and gore. This game has a pretty large open world, tons of great and fun weapons, a pretty neat crafting system, and a lot of side content. It graphically looks alright, with good music and VAs, although the story isn't the best. But Riptide is a pretty good game for when you just want to turn off your brain and kill some Zeeks, and it earns a 9.3 out of 10 by my grade scale. Enough said, time to go on to the next game on today's list. Shifting over to the fourth title for today's video, we have Girl Fight, a fighting game developed by Kung Fu Factory and published by Majesco, did I say that right? And it can currently be purchased digitally for $9.99, a price that is well worth paying. This is a female-only roster fighting game, and while some have called it bare bones, I find enjoyment in its simplicity. It's listed as an arcade fighting game, and that's pretty much what it is. No complex 14-move combos or a 20-plus character roster. Just a small little fighting game that I have easily put over 35 hours into, as it's really a lot of fun. This game has 3 single-player modes, being a practice mode, a single fight mode, and an arcade mode, which is the closest thing that Girl Fight has to a story mode. You go up against every character in the game except for the one that you chose, followed by a boss fight, which is the character Chrome, but with a healing factor, and small tidbits of the story are dropped in between battles. As far as PvP modes, there is a local versus, which I played with my wife, and also online MP. And after checking well over a dozen times, while my Game Pass was still active, the lobbies are dead. Getting more into the roster, it consists of 8 characters, with Chaos being my favorite, as she's very well balanced, followed by Wrench, who's a bit harder to control, but she has some really strong kicks and grabs. And Shogun was probably my least favorite character, as she's kinda sluggish with weak punches and kicks, although she does have some nice grab moves. Now, each girl has 3 costumes in total, 1 default and 2 that you can buy from the store. Now, you earn money in a number of ways, like winning fights, using special moves, getting a good combo going, just stuff like that. And in addition to purchasing the aforementioned skins, you can also buy bio entries, concept art, new powers, and power upgrades. Now, the power system was quite interesting, as in most fighting games, powers/abilities are locked to each character. But in Girl Fight, you can mix and match powers and use any ability with any fighter. There are 8 powers in total, with 3 tiers for every ability. And landing blows in combat builds up your power meter, and higher tier powers drain more energy than lower tier ones, but have better effects. My personal favorite power is Phase Shift, which allows your character to heal while being transparent. But there are other useful abilities, like Steel Skin, which reduces incoming damage, or Life Leech, which allows you to take a bit of your opponent's health with every landed hit. I guess that largely wraps up the gameplay. Graphically, this title looks pretty good, and the soundtrack is enjoyable. Story-wise, there is a story for anyone who wants to piece together all the bios and arcade messages, but I didn't feel like going to the work. In conclusion, Girl Fight is a simple, fun fighting game. That's exactly what a game should be. Simple fun with no microtransactions or DLCs. This title earns a 8.9 out of 10 by my grade scale, and it's one of my favorite fighting games on the 360. Going to the final game on our list, we have Enemy Front, developed and published by CI Games in 2014. This is a very underrated World War II game in my opinion. Now, I have made some weird observations about this game here recently. Okay, so I beat it for the second time before I sat down to write this script, alright? Now, the first time I beat Enemy Front was on my American Xbox. The second time was on my European console. It just seemed fitting to me, as this is a European-developed game about the European resistance movements of World War II. Anyways, when I first played through this game on my American Xbox, it ran flawlessly. No glitches, no hiccups, nothing bad. But on my European console, this game is glitch and bug city. Having enemies shoot through walls when they shouldn't be able to, enemies just glitching out in general and being really dumb at times, or even a glitch which forced me to use the MP40 in one level, where you can normally use whatever weapon you want. So I'm kind of at a loss as to how to actually review this one, as I actually gave this game a 10 out of 10 in my standalone video on this game. But after playing this on my European console with all the glitches, I'm kinda like, should I lower my score or should I leave it at the Big 10? Anyways, the game itself has some pretty solid gameplay in my opinion, with some forced open combat levels and optional stealth sections. But I wasn't very good at stealth on Enemy Front, and I often got detected when I was trying to sneak, so I wound up going loud. As for level design, this does make Enemy Front stand out to me, as it has some pretty big open levels with special guns, side missions, and collectibles hidden about, which was really cool and a pretty big move from such a small company. And the story, like I mentioned earlier, is about the French, Norwegian, and the Polish resistance movements in World War II, with the largest focus on Poland. As for weapon variety, Enemy Front has most of the staple guns of a World War II game, like the PPSH, MP40, and Kar 98K, although you won't find any Tommy guns on this game, which does make sense because that's an American weapon, and EF lets you hold 3 guns at once, which was pretty cool, being 2 primary guns and a pistol. And that's a pretty decent summary of this title. You'll probably enjoy it if you're a Medal of Honor fan, and it's a game worth giving a whirl. At least on an American console, as I do still give the American version a 10 out of 10, but the European version a 9 out of 10 because of the performance issues. And yeah, 5 underrated Xbox 360 games that I recommend trying in 2026. Tell me in the comments what you think of this list, and why you agree or disagree with me, and if you'd like to see a part 2 of this video. Well, that's the vid itself for today. Thanks a lot for watching and for putting up with my bad voice. It really means a lot. For those new here, I mostly review and discuss Xbox 360 games, so do feel free to sub if that sounds like your thing. And follow me on GameRam for hints at upcoming vids. For our Bible verse of the day, I read Proverbs 4:24 NIV. Keep your mouth free of perversity. Keep corrupt talk far from your lips. And like always, none of my content is made by robots, and I do not consent for my voice and likeness to be copied and altered by robots in any way. Keep YouTube human. Thanks again for watching, especially if you stuck to the end, as this video was quite a bit of work. Take it easy, yo. God loves you all. My foot's falling asleep, so I gotta go. Peace. Developed by the now Also, I frequently ran into a glitch on DI1 where I would eat food items, and they didn't restore any health.